So he was the very first Democrat to announce that he was a candidate for 2020. Former Maryland Congressman John Delaney says no to Medicare for all, no to the Green New Deal, and no to those who pushed Amazon out of New York City. So is bucking his own party potentially the way to win the nomination? Here now exclusively, John Delaney, former congressman and 2020 Democratic presidential candidate. Sir, good to have you with us today. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So when you look at this field, you have a lot of people who have some pretty decent name recognition. They spent time in the Senate, ran for Senate in Beto O'Rourke's case if he gets in. But a lot of people don't know who you are. And in most of the polls that we've seen, you barely register. So how do you plan to turn that around?
Well, I just opened my sixth office here in Iowa. I'm sitting here in Waterloo, Iowa. We've got more people on the ground in Iowa and New Hampshire than the other campaigns. We've got a big operation here. So, Martha, I'm pursuing that kind of old-fashioned early state strategy where you're in coffee shops in people's living rooms and you're telling them what your plans are. And I'm introducing myself to them, and we're getting a lot of enthusiasm on the ground here in Iowa and New Hampshire. So to some extent, I'm playing a bit of a different game, right? I'm not necessarily playing the national media game right now. I'm playing the Iowa and New Hampshire early state strategy. I've done over 300 events in these early states. We have a lot of supporters on the ground here, and we've got a good-sized team. Like I said, I just opened up my office here in Waterloo.
Yeah.
It's a snowy day here. We had 70 people. We stayed for a couple hours. It was a great event.
So how do you keep that, the long-term picture as these other people get in and they're going to flood Iowa as well? And I understand what you're saying about your strategy, that you realize, I would imagine, that you're, kind of an underdog in this thing and you don't have a lot of name recognition. The other thing is, though, that, that we're hearing a lot about how diverse the candidate needs to be for the Democratic side, that's a major. We heard Cory Booker the other day say, I will definitely pick a woman if I am the nominee because that will give the balance that my ticket needs. You are, a middle-aged white male. What do you have to offer to that equation?
So listen, I think the diversity in our party is terrific. I think our party right now at this moment in time really represents the American people. I'm not a person of color and I'm not a woman, as you correctly recognize there. And so I can never fully appreciate all the issues people of color and women have had to deal with in this country. But I do believe at the end of the day, what the Democratic Party is going to look for is the person who they think is the best leader, who has the best vision for the country. I'm running as a pragmatic idealist. There's big things I want to do to make this world better, but I actually want to get them done. I want to find common ground.
What's number one on your list?
Together.
We know you don't like the Green New Deal. You don't like Medicare for all. What's the number one thing what's your mission?
Well, so it's not that I don't like those things, right? I like the fact that people are trying to create universal health care. I like the fact that we're dealing with climate change. I just have better ways of doing them, right? I think the issue with climate change, for example, is I introduced the only bipartisan carbon tax bill in the Congress. That's right. Democrats and Republicans coming together on a carbon tax, and we take all the money and we give it right back to the American people in a dividend. That's the kind of solution that can get done. I think we should have universal health care in this country, but I don't think we should get there by making private insurance illegal. That's a crazy approach, right? So I want to do things that matter to everyday Americans with their education, with their health care, create jobs in communities that have been left behind. We've seen a tremendous hollowing out economically of jobs in this country. Last year, Martha, in our country, 80% of the money for startup companies went to 50 counties out of over 3,000 in this country. And I'm a former entrepreneur. I started 2 companies and took them public on the New York Stock Exchange. So I know how to create jobs. So I'm focused on jobs. I'm focused on health care. I'm focused on education, opportunities for people's kids. These are issues that matter to the American people.
What about the idea that you might be running as a potential vice presidential candidate? What do you say to that? There's a lot of women who are in the field. Is that something that you would consider?
I'm running for president. So that's my goal. I'm the right person for the job. I believe I have the right vision for the country. And importantly, I'm very focused on bringing this country together. I think one of the central issues we face as a country is how terribly divided we are, how American has been increasingly pitted against American. So I think we have to get back to this notion of common purpose, that we're all in it together, that there's some big things we need to do, but we have to do them together. And there's obvious solutions for all the issues we face as a country right now, whether it's healthcare, climate change, jobs, pharmaceutical prices, but we got to solve them together.
John Delaney, we thank you for coming on. We hope to talk to all the Democrat candidates, and we thank you for your time tonight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Martha.